Hey, what's up, guys? So today, let's continue this throttle assembly thing. Last session we tried to make this slip, or we printed off some parts to make this slip, and that involved this kind of fixed mechanism, and then a timing gear, and a bit of felt, and then a spring. So what we're trying to do is basically give force feedback to the throttle, and that force feedback is then driven via this motor. And I'm just going to take my jumper off. So what we want to try and do today is put this together, and then we'll give it a go in Flight Sim and see if we can move this and the force feedback works. So Flight Sim's very upset. It seems to have got lots of updates. But what we'll do first is we kind of need to put this together. So essentially we have this with a friction plate on it, and then a spring. And from that, we should then be able to smoothly operate the handle. And the motor, if it's running, it should just slip. What I tried yesterday was I put the spring in here kind of as I mentioned last time, but then it made for rotation of this bar like really tight. So I think what my original idea was, let's just move this that way a bit. What my original idea was to put something on the bar and then tension against that fixed object on the bar. That'll make a bit more sense in a second, but I think we'll try that, and then there isn't we're not pushing against this, which is then causing it to go at a slight angle and then increasing the resistance and stuff. So let's pop this together. Do drop a note in the chat if it's your first time here, or you're working on any cool projects. It's always fun to know. And let's go over to, or not, let's try and go over to the camera on the bench. Let's see why that's not working for a second. We can hope. Hope and pray. It's not the most reliable thing. There you go. Right, so what I basically have is, if you have a look up here, is we have a free moving GT2 gear, which is here. We then have a fixed, try and spread it out for you guys, We have a fixed, basically cog on the end, which I've inset the magnet into, because originally I was aiming to, I was just sticking it on the end, but it was then a pain to kind of get it in there after I tightened everything up because the tolerances were a bit close. So I've inset this magnet into the end of this print, and then if we need to adjust where it sits from a calibration perspective, that should be pretty easy to do. We just loosen this off, turn it 90 degrees, tighten it up again. So we have this bit, and then this bit is essentially going to be pushed against the felt based on this spring. And then we're going to have this additional part, which I need to put on the bar itself. And then by adjusting where this new black part sits, will be the amount of pressure between the freewheeling timing gear and the static friction pad. I assume this will work. If you have any other better ideas, drop them in the chat and tell me I'm an idiot. I'm all ears. So what we need is the correct spanner. And then, so what I'm hoping for this evening is if we can pop this together, we should then be able to launch Flight Sim and really give it a go and see if Flight Sim works, which should be more than possible. What I might just do actually is, let's just load up. Let's just load up some Flight Sim and get that on the screen. Down there for now. So yeah, so essentially what I'm going to do is let's just pull this apart quickly. Where did that go? Okay, I've lost that part. But what we'll do, so we're going to use this to tension on. Okay. And then we don't actually need a spring on there because it's all going to be moving together. Oh, sorry, a washer. And then we're going to put a washer on here. Okay. Just let that focus. And then what we'll do is we'll put, so this is essentially a timing gear with a bearing in the middle. Let's put that on that way, I think. So you can see this is going to tension up towards it like that. And then, yeah, and then the next, so we put a washer on there, haven't we? And then we just need this on the end, I think. Okay, and then we'll tighten this up. Let's put the belt on first. Make our lives a bit easier. And then we'll pop that on there. Tighten this up. So I've had a lovely day doing some volunteering work, which happened to involve a WordPress site. And my God, I don't see how people use WordPress day to day. It's infuriating. And obviously it was in a state where no one had used templates before. So you essentially had to manually, what you see is what you get, edit things. And then if you wanted to edit any styling, there was definitely some cheeky CSS hacks I was doing to get through the day. But every time I go into see a place using WordPress, they always have the same problems where there's vulnerabilities, or just generally you have a website that's very out of date because nobody wants to touch it, such as WordPress. It'll be interesting to see how kind of things go with more AI-based tools, because why do you need a whole CMS and a way of kind of managing that content if you can just ask a prompt to update this page? Do you really need a block style editor in 2026? I would probably say no. It seems a bit restricted, especially with new tools. Why would you need? Why would you want to limit your building of a web page based on some blocks that have been predefined? I don't know. I think that AI tools have such a good grasp on HTML that they're probably going to generate something more impressive if you don't limit it. But you could do that for anything, couldn't you? You could say that, I'm going to redesign PowerPoint in web technologies. Oh, that's probably where things are going, aren't they? So anyway, I'm rambling on. So what I've done here is I've mounted opinion fixed, and this actually feels pretty good. It doesn't look like it's quite rotating true there. Let's just try and fix that. But what do you guys think about the future of software development? It's always a interesting topic. Lots have changed in the past few years, but still we have developers. They just maybe output a bit more, or their job role has changed. People, it's quite rare you're actually writing code that much these days, but you are still delivering output and checking that things work and thinking about the edge cases and stuff like that. It's not like, let's loosen that off. It's not like everyone's becoming completely redundant due to AI. I don't think it's quite got that far. But still, it's not going to get that far, I don't think. It would turn into a case where your job role changes. Yeah, it still doesn't look great, but I think that'll do for now. Your job role changes. You don't just become a developer anymore. You're kind of owning the whole product ownership to testing the phase, right? You're not just writing code that's been written 1,000 times just for your special use case, which, surprise, is not actually that special. Unless you're doing really cool stuff. The majority of stuff that's written has been written before. Maybe just for a slightly different specification. Right, so we've got kind of that. That's already feeling a lot better than what I was, or than before. Earlier, this was really stiff to rotate. And I think it's because it was pushing up, the spring was pushing up against this bracket here. So that's looking really nice. I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, if you want to throw some shade at WordPress in the chat, please do. I don't think I've ever have I come across someone that likes WordPress? I'm not sure. And I know why people go for it, but I just you then don't touch it. It becomes out of date. Someone else comes in. Yeah. It served a purpose for a time, didn't it? But, I'm trying to get this this cog on the bar. It's pretty tight. Ah, there you go. Right, so what I'm trying to do now is we'll line this up to here. And the other issue with having to put the spring on here is it then relied on this part to keep it all centered. So I think it was a nice idea in principle to keep simple, but it caused so much pressure kind of along the bar itself that it just really didn't work. So it was quite simple. Quite a simple fix, really. Okay, so we'll just keep that, just loosen that off for a second, and let's tighten this one up. So the other day I was talking about how PLA might be fine for this. Well, I've been playing with this so much that I don't know whether you can see that. The where I've printed a thread into this PLA part and taking it out and putting it back in and taking it out a few times, it's just fully shredded it. So I had to print another one off, and once it's in place, it'll be fine. Okay, so that's looking pretty nice. You can see how the bar's spinning, but we don't now have that click, 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 click sound. I'm just going to tighten this back up. Cool. So what we should be able to see here then is this feels pretty smooth. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll just try and get a good camera angle on this. And do drop in the chat if you have any projects to discuss. So there you go. So this is now nice and smooth. Before it was tripping over the timing gear, so it was going clunk, 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 which was pretty horrible. I kind of expected it to happen, but because I just wanted a proof of concept first. But that is now beautifully smooth. So the question is, does it work though? So it's smooth, but will the motor still drive it? And I've noticed that this could be lined up a bit better, couldn't it? So I'm just going to adjust that. And I need to push what do I need to do? I need to release this one, and we're just going to push the bar a bit closer in. Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks about right. And with the bar there, I need to then move that backwards. I would have saved a lot of time if I just purchased a pre-build kit. But where's the fun in that? This is how you learn. Okay, and then I'm just going to tighten this up for a second. Right. Sorry we're a bit out of view there, but so what we can do is we should be able to rotate this. This feels decent. And then when the motor drives, which I can't do manually because it's a geared motor, when that drives, what we should see is it moves the bar, in theory. It wouldn't be exciting if I knew it would work. Where's the fun in that? So, what we're going to do is we're going to pop into Flight Sim. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable active pause, I think. Hopefully I've done that with the pause key. And then I'm going to go over to IntelliJ. And we are going to start our Python code. So what's happening here is it's connected to the Arduino and it's connected to Flight Sim. And in theory, this looks a bit more wrong. Let's just see, because I've moved where the magnet is, it might be a bit upset from a calibration perspective. So let's just cancel that for a second and bring up the Arduino console. Okay. And then I'm going to enable the serial monitor. So cancel. It's still running in Python. 1 sec. Cancel. You don't want to cancel. To task manager. Right, let's try turn that off. Try again. Serial monitor. Hello? Okay, well, let's just see if it... Done uploading. Okay, cool. And then we can do a serial monitor. Oh. Okay, so this is unusual. So we're getting a -1 back from the sensor. Let's just try and move the magnet a bit closer, see if that changes. No. Okay, I'm going to power cycle everything. I wonder if we have a more fundamental problem. I've never seen that come up with -1. I think there might be a communication problem somewhere. So let's see what happens when we try and read this. Yeah, if wire is available less than 2, return -1. So we have a communication issue with the AS5600. Fun. Okay. What's annoying with things like this is then you've just spent ages putting it all together, and now you have to take it all apart again. How am I going to do this? So let's just release from there for a sec. And see if there's anything obvious. Okay. Oh, so it's now read. So I obviously have a dodgy connection back there somewhere because it's now starting to read correctly, or it's reading something now, isn't it? So let's pop this back and hope and pray. Actually, let's just leave a bit off for a sec and pop this back. And what we should start to see, hopefully. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we're not actually getting any data now. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, so what this feels like is on the back of the AS5600, it's probably shorting or doing something bad. You see how like the serial's just not having any of it. So what we're going to have to do, I think, is let's just take it off for a second and we'll just inspect what shoddy craftsmanship I've done to this before. And because I've been hitting it with a pole, it's probably not that happy with me. I mean, the connections on here look fine. Have a look at the back of it. It's pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with what we've done there. So I'm just going to put it to one side for a second and give the board power again. And we'll see if that gets any better or not. Okay, so now we're reading 0. Fine. I'm just going to move the... I'll do anything up there. There you go. Cool. So let's take... I guess we can take any magnetic surface, technically. And we'll just... Okay. Fine. And then what we'll try and do is we'll just try and fix it back in place and see if it breaks again. So how do we have it? We had it come through this way into here. And we had a little line up hole. So about there, I think. Okay, and now, okay, it's reading a value, that's good. Let's move this back into place then. Okay, and then let's do some rotation. Cool. Okay, that's good then. So we can pop this on there. And then just try and pop it around the... Okay. Right, and now if we have a look at the console. So the first column we have here is the raw value out of the sensor. So we have 3974 to 2530. And that might be flipped, probably because of the way I put the 2974. Yeah. $2974 to 2530. So this is going to be interesting because I may have just inverted this. Basically, with a magnet, it will be flipped. No, it shouldn't be, should it? I think what we need to do in this case is we take the 0 position and let's just rotate it. Both positions are annoying. And we'll rotate this round to something like that. Okay, and let's see that again. So it's now 3292. Yeah, right. So we want to rotate that round maybe 45 degrees. Bring it back. Let's try there. Okay, we want to change it so it's like a minimal value, I guess. It's very hard to see my computer screen while I do this. There. Okay, let's go with there. So, no, a bit more. Okay, so let's just tighten that up for a second. Okay, so 0, balls. No, it's still going the wrong way, isn't it? It's counting down. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I think the magnet has been flipped. So we kind of need to fix that, don't we? Oh, we don't want it traveling through that now. Okay, so if we're okay with something like that, right? Okay. Okay, so we have 3937 up to 2514. Sorry, 2513. Let's have a look at the Arduino docs for map. The lower bounds of either range may be larger or smaller than the upper bounds, so the map function may be used to reverse a range of numbers. Okay. Well, we could give that a go, see if it works. Okay, so that's saying a maximum Frottel, and then if you bring it down, cool. Seems to be quite a lot of range there. There's actually 2,500. That's interesting, isn't it? Two, 4. I'm not too sure on calibration on that, but it should kind of work. So let's try in IDEA, and we need to stop the serial monitor there, and let's try there. Okay, cool. So you can see the motor's now started. However, it doesn't look like it's... Okay, so I'm just going to stop that a second. And what we need to do is, that doesn't look particularly straight, does it? Let's sort that out. I don't know why, whether the hole's not deep enough, or it just doesn't look great, that, does it? And then I think we need a bit more friction on here. So let's get that back in there, and I'm going to put a bit more tension in this, tighten that spring up a bit. It's interesting why it thinks grip is at 399%. So it seems like there's just a bit too much. Interesting. So these numbers are a bit weird. I think it's... Let's just run that again. Yeah, very odd. The fact that the grip is 308. See, the grip should go down to 0. I mean, it's a different problem, but do we need more? Do we need like a double spring on this mechanism here? You reckon? Because it's not rotating. What that should be doing is that, and then it gets there. But there's just a bit too much. There's just a bit too much friction to make that happen, based on the pad. So it's just slipping a bit too much. What could we do? So what we should be able to do currently is we should be able to, yeah, something very, very broken. I do wonder whether the current position stuff is used elsewhere. Although we're taking the raw angle, I guess it's more if the raw angle is used elsewhere, which it's not. As long as this mapping works, everything should be 0 to 1023. Okay, let's just cancel this. And we'll go into Arduino and let's take a look at the serial monitor again. Because I played around with it, I think it's changed what it wants to do with life. That doesn't seem that much of a change, but let's give that a go. Right, and then, okay. It's just going over the threshold. Let's give that a go. So let's run that again in. Why is the grip is still wrong? So the grip is the physical ratio times 100. It's almost there. I'm a bit confused about what's happened software wise. Why? Okay, so what we could try and do is if we go into Flight Sim and just turn off the governor for a second. Well, that's interesting because we have a governor off, but what we should see on this program is it should say gov off. It should go into Dura mode, and it's not. Gov if gov active else dir. Ooh, interesting. But at some point we write we write to the Arduino to say that the governor shouldn't be active, this bit here. So we read the gov switch position from the simulator, and then we send this command which says if the gov switch is active and the current rotor RPM, which should then return a physical ratio. Okay, I wonder whether I've used an old version of the script. Let's have a look. So throttle feedback. I'm just going to close Arduino. And we will notepad, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Why is Arduino not working? Let's have a look at this. And what we'll do is let's do serial monitor. Hopefully. Ah, it's being used over here. I'm just doing upload. Great. Oh, what happened there? That was weird. Done uploading. I'm trying to load the serial monitor here. And it's not having any of it, is it? Oh, here we go. All right, so let's just go through this again then. So this is now showing the we don't have the raw value in here anymore based on this version of the code. So I'm going to print, that's what would have upset the Tubber one. Yes, okay, so I added in a raw AS5600 field here, which then would have offset all of the fields by 1. So when it was read by the Python code, they were all off by 1, and it didn't make any sense. So what we could try and do is let's add the raw value here at the end, not at the beginning. Okay. So let's just put that down to 0. So we have 4095. Where do we read it? Here. So we have 4095. And then that goes up to, or down to 2455. 2455. Okay. And then we're mapping that 0 to 0123. Cool. Let's pop that in again. Okay, and then I'm going to cancel this, and let's load up the Python again. Okay. Right, so it's now reading direct mode. It's saying grip is 100%. So I'm going to rotate the grip. Nice. Okay, so the grip's coming down, and if we have a look here, we can see that's now reflected correctly. I'm just going to turn the governor on. We can see governor is on, and it's revving up. And it has somehow stabilized. So I'm just going to force it down manually and then let go. Yeah, so it just gets slightly stuck, doesn't it? So I think the concept works. It just needs to be a bit better. Whether we put another spring in there. You know, you can now override it, and then the governor's trying to then correct it, and it does actually get to a point where it wants to be, which is pretty cool. So let's like manually put it at 100%. We just rev it, and you can see in the simulator that it's going 100%, and then I'm going to let go of the control. You see, it just gets stuck. Just slightly gets stuck. So I need to kind of improve how this is done, I think. But the concept works. The concept works quite nicely. And it allows kind of that force feedback flow that you could update this and go the other way. So I'm pretty happy with that. We just need to have a look why it's not quite sitting on that bar correctly. And interesting. Right, so I think that's going to be back to CAD for me to improve this bit around here. You can see this hasn't been running very straight, which is weird. I need to see kind of why that is. Whether it's just not pushed on the bar enough, or yeah, not sure about that. And then maybe we just need a bit more friction between this and this. But it has to be enough that just overcomes any slight thing, but not so much that it then causes the teeth on the gear to slip. So pretty, yeah, it's proving a bit trickier than I had hoped, but we're getting there. So yeah, what's that now stuck on? Right, fun and games. So yeah, join me next time. I might do a bit of CAD now and try and work that out, and I'll see you guys in the future.